Hey, everybody. Today is January 19th. This is Earth Science. I'm Mr. Sheridan. Hope you all had a great, long, extended break. Hope you had some time over the weekend to reflect on Martin Luther King Day, what that means for our country, particularly with the things that we are going through right now. And hopefully we can take some of those. I know a lot of people have been going through quotes from MLK and using them on social media and that sort of thing. Hopefully we had some time to reflect over the weekend on what that means to us, and we can start to adopt some of those things in our lives. What we are going to do today is not necessarily related to science. However, this is a way, what we need to do is work on how we present the information that we found with your summatives that were due on Friday, by the way. So we're not going to spend any more time, talking specifically about that assignment. We had all last week to work on them. So today we are going to look at some principles of layout design, meaning how do we design our presentations or our flyers or business cards or signs or anything so that they are attractive to readers, so that it's easy to consume, so that we draw the reader's eye to where we want to. We can show the information that we went and researched and found in a way that's easy to consume. So the first thing that we're going to do is start with a short presentation that I created that is going to talk about the acronym CRAP. Let that sink in for just a second. So what we are looking for, pardon this, are crappy presentations. And let me share with you our presentation. So believe it or not, what I am looking for when you have this information. So on this last summative, you were asked to go out and find lots of three different ways, three different types of energy that affects the Earth's climate. You did all that research. You went out and found scientists that were working on it. You went out and found ways that energy was affecting the climate right now, ways that it'll affect in the future, past examples of that type of energy affecting the Earth's climate. Well, now we need to present that material to Mr. Sheridan so that he can actually read it, consume it, and give me the grade that I'm looking for. So the way that we do that is through a CRAP presentation. Here's what I mean by that. So what does CRAP stand for? CRAP stands for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. These are the four things that we're going to focus on when we're talking about making presentations that are visually attractive and easy to consume, which is what we're looking for. And you should be looking for to make presentations that have these four things so that they're easy to read as we go forward. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is contrast, mostly because that goes with our acronym. So we're going to gloss over this one quickly, actually, because I want to get to the next two. We're going to come back to contrast. We're going to talk about contrast later because contrast is super duper important. It allows you to draw a ton of attention to one particular part of your presentation or a part of whatever it is that you are designing. But the problem is, in order to get contrast, you have to have a whole bunch of the next two things, which are repetition and alignment. So let's start with repetition. So when we're creating something, we want our reader to be able to see all of the things that we're doing, and we want to see them over and over and over again. We're going to get the reader in a rhythm of consuming the material that we want them to in the same spot. So your titles should all be in the same place. So when I click to these slides, and you can just see how this is put together, I always know where the title of this slide is. You need to be using the same color scheme. You're going to say, okay, wait, Mr. Sheridan, but you've got different colors on here. But that's the point, is that every slide has a different color. That is a color scheme. So whether they are all the same color or whether each slide has a different color, or as a lot of you did, if one of your types of energy has one color and then another type of energy has another color and another type of energy has another color, but you've got 5 or 6 slides to go with each one, then they should all have that color. Some of you did a very good job with that. You need to be using the same font unless you want to use contrast occasionally to highlight one specific thing. But that contrast doesn't matter if you've got 14 different fonts all over your presentation. So you need to be using the same font and the same slide layout. Okay. If you go from this and then the next slide is this type of layout, and then the next slide is back to this type, and then this type, and then this type, and then this type, it doesn't make, you need to keep these all the same. So in this case, we have a title slide, and then every slide is the same. So let's talk about alignment. When you are creating this content, the reader's eye needs to follow your train of thought. So we have our title over here always, and then they're going to read down through these bullets. That's where our eye is going to go every single time. We're not bouncing these back and forth. We don't have this text way at the top and then all these bullets way down here, and then the next one's up here, and then the next slide has a font that's a different size or a different color or a different font or whatever it is. We're keeping repetition, and we're keeping all of these slides in alignment. And the ways that you can do these, there's a ton of new tricks, and you all are spoiled with this stuff because all of these programs like Slides in Google Docs and all of the other programs that we are creating these documents in, they all have lots and lots and lots of tools in order to help you with alignment. You'll notice when you're actually putting these things together that when you, oops, sorry, hang on, that's not what I wanted. If you get out of this, so you've got these text boxes that you can move up and down, and oh my goodness, there's going to be a red line that pops up so that it all lines up in the same exact spot. Holy moly. You've got those types of tools that actually help you keep this in alignment. So we need to go back to my other slide here. So when you're talking about alignment, you've got all these fancy little toolbars here so that you know exactly where this text box is lining up in reference to that, in reference to my ruler on the far side over here. So you can see all of these things. You have all these amazing tools. You need to start using them so that all of your text is in alignment. So all of your pictures need to line up or be in the same spot. You'll notice that on these slides, every single one of these borders, the pictures are all different, but they all are in the same spot. Okay. You need to be using the same font in the same slide layout. We talked about repetition already. So then we're using layouts and text boxes. These are the things. You need to be using the tab key so that everything is always lined up just so. Now, so let's go back to contrast. We talked about repetition and alignment. So everything's going to be exactly the same, right? Well, that is until you have something that you really want to highlight. When something is really important and you want to draw attention to it, that's when you can use contrast. But contrast is ineffective if the whole thing is just scatterbrained. You've got to have repetition and alignment in order for contrast to be useful. So lots of different ways to contrast though. You can make something a different size. You can change the angle of that particular font so that it is all over the place. Color is a great way to show some contrast between different ideas. We talked about, again, highlighting, using a different color to go with each type of energy that you use in each one of these things, or a different font. But again, we're getting back to making sure that all of our stuff is lined up in the right spot, and then you can use a pop of color, a little different slide or something like that to give your slideshow some pop or some pizzazz, as they say. The last one here in our acronym, and again, for those that we've had a few people that have jumped in the middle, we're doing a quick presentation on design layout, which to try to improve the presentations that got handed in or help the people that haven't turned theirs in yet to make sure that your presentations are designed correctly so that they're easy on the reader. That means me. So in this case, so we've used the acronym CRAP to say that we're looking for contrast, repetition, alignment, and now proximity. Proximity is something that is a little bit tricky to use, but what we're talking about is grouping information that belongs together. When you're talking about one type of energy from this presentation, all those slides ought to be together. if you want to talk, and you can do this in different ways. If you want to talk about, say you wanted to do all the scientists from each of the energies together, that would be fine, but you need to separate that information so that it's easy for the reader to take it in and understand exactly what you're trying to say, because that information is grouped correctly either on the same slide or that group of slides is together, so that we know that all of that information goes together before we move on to the next thing. So proximity is really, really important as we separate our ideas so that the reader is clear about exactly what it is that we are talking about. So we want to make sure that all of our presentations in science class or otherwise are total crap. All right. So one more thing I want to show you. This is another acronym. So if you want to use crap, it's totally right. Totally right. We want to talk about those 4 design elements as a way to lay things out. This is another one that I found that I really, really like. So we need to count our carbs. So in this case, we're going to use CARBS is another term, and they do a really nice job talking about designing a business card using these principles. So if you think about a slide on a presentation is very, very similar to if we were trying to design a business card that you would hand out and put in somebody's wallet or whatever. So this is what we start with. And this is where a lot of you are in terms of your text, the information that you're trying to present in class, the energy that you have. So all the information's here. You've got everything that you need right here. This tells me this business's name, their phone number, the website. It tells me their hours down here. I mean, this is fine, right? Because it tells me all the information that I need. Well, maybe there's a way that we can lay this out just a little bit better so that it's easier for the reader to consume. And we'll kind of walk through that process. So although the acronym is CARBS, they don't necessarily do this in order. Kind of like how we talked about repetition and alignment are really the most important things. Then we go back and then we can add some contrast, and we need to talk about proximity too. We're going to do these a little bit out of order. So if we take all this wonderful information that we have and we add a little bit of balance, so we have all this text. If we kind of center some of it, so we kind of group some of this together up here, and we start to spread out some things. We make our logo a little bit bigger. We're starting to add some balance to the slide, meaning that and a lot of you did this where you'll have like one giant paragraph across the top of your slide and then one tiny picture down in the corner. This is what we're talking about with balance. We need to either spread that text out a little bit. Ideally, you're going to remove a lot of that text and create shorter bullet points that summarize what you're trying to convey, and then make your picture bigger so that it's more eye appealing to the consumer. So now that we have this a little bit better balanced, now we need to talk about some spacing. So we want to separate some of the ideas. This is proximity. This is the same thing as proximity, where we are talking about, okay, so we've got a space, we got our the name of our business up here. Now we have all of our contact info right here. And then we've got a space. We've got a really cool tagline here that we like to use. So we're going to separate that. Then we've got all of the features of our business, the things that we will actually do. The things that we want to focus on, that, our highlights of our business, and then our hours down here, they're all separated with space. Now let's talk about repetition again. So another thing that we talked about in repetition, we were talking about making sure that everything is all the same. Well, the same goes for every slide, where if you're using a color scheme on a slide, you want to stick with it. So in this case, they chose one color, which is red, and they're going to use it over and over and over and over and over again. Therefore, you're not using, they could have made Midtown Tires red, and then this purple, and then this black, and then these gray, and then this green down here. But the repetition of seeing red, you start to correlate that with a business. Walmart, you're going to think blue. Meijer, you think red. They tried to turn to blue. I don't know why, but Meijer, you think of red. There's other businesses that use green as their one color, and you're going to see that repeated continually through all of their advertising and all of their printed materials. Then contrast. So we added a black border down here to highlight those things. We added a different font In here, we made this Midtown Tires super big. We made our font even, or our logo even bigger. We're adding contrast so that we can draw the reader's eye to what we want them to see. So in this case, they kept this font very basic, which is really nice when you're trying to find. If they would have made this really scripted font, that would make it harder to read. So they did a nice job of just keeping that the same way, but they're really drawing attention to their name. They've got their little catchphrase down here in handwriting, so it seems more personal. And then they added this really nice black border at the bottom, different ways of contrast. And then if we create some alignment, you'll see up here, we still have some of this stuff. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All this stuff is kind of all over the place here. Versus down here, we utilize our space better when we've got all of these all lined up as much as possible. We went from 5 different types of alignment to 3, and it made a huge difference of just utilizing all the space that we have. We still have a super clear idea of what we're doing. We have tons of contrast between, we made our title even bigger. We're using all of this space. We still have the repetition of using red throughout the business card. Tons of different ways that you can use this. So another acronym that you can use when you're thinking about your slide is CARPS. So we're talking about contrast, we're talking about alignment, we're talking about repetition. Those are the 3 from CRAP as well. But then in this case, we also have balance and spacing, which theoretically all has to do with proximity. So we were using the same type of deal. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is show you a couple of examples of really good presentations. So we're going to take the material that we were actually using, and we're actually going to, and I'm going to show you 2 presentations that I thought were exceptional, did a great job of some of the things that we're talking about. The one thing that we haven't covered, in fact, I'm going to jump off sharing because the one thing that we haven't covered in any of these design layout type things is how much text to use. Because there are a ton of you that are still using complete sentences, which most of the time is a really good thing, except when you're doing a slides presentation. When you're doing a slides presentation, these do not have to be complete sentences. Although it's really good information, you need to summarize these things. And because you are doing this presentation, you can use images to convey part of your message. You don't have to write as much and in complete sentences. So when we're writing paragraphs and essays and documents, you need to use complete sentences. You need to explain every little thing. You need to be grammatically correct. And you can't use images to help your cause. In this case, you can. So there's a couple examples I want to share with you of really, really good examples of how they did this. So thinking back to, and this is Abby Flynn's, great job, Abby. And I have a couple questions after we get done with this, because I would love to know whether you found this slide layout or where you found this slide layout. But think about when we talk about alignment. This is what alignment is, folks. Everything is exactly where you were talking about the sun's energy. So we've got a little contrast up here so we know exactly what we're talking about. Down here, we are talking about, maybe she just created all these text boxes, but I'm not sure how she did that. Hang on, I think I might have, yeah, I messed it up. But so we've got our short-term and long-term effects of the sun's energy, and then we focus on scientists and tools. We actually talk about the specific scientists, and the thing I really like that she did here is she actually did her citations on the slide. So everything you need to know about what she just talked about is right here. So she still has probably more text than I would ideally like to see. She's using a lot of longer sentences, but because it's so well organized, it really, really works. And not only that, but she copied this in the next 2 slides. So we talk about grouping together the same ideas, proximity. This is what she did. So she started with the sun's energy, volcanic energy. She did exactly the same thing. Everything is in exactly the same spot and covers the exact same information. She's also, you'll notice, using an image of the particular scientist that she found because it helps tell the story. So we can actually see the people that we're talking about. And ocean currents did the exact same thing with the exact same thing in the same. It's just, I love these slides. Even if it is a little wordy, it's so well organized that it really, really works. Then, so up here, these are her title slides. So she broke up her presentation this way. So she's had energy can be transferred through. Then she had those 3 slides that we just saw. Now we're moving on to a different subject. So these are the events in history. So this is what so she covers this, the sun's energy, what happened in history. Then we go to volcanic energy. Then we go to oceanic currents. Now we have another title slide, human activities for each one of these things. And we have the sun's energy, volcanic energy, and ocean currents. Very, very well organized. Again, a little too much text here, and we'll show one that does a good job of not using as much text so you can see what that is, but so well organized that it really, really works. So great job, Abby. That was awesome. Okay, then one more that I want to show you as a good example of what to do. So this is this is Hallie Services. Notice, folks, that she's using color. And that's another thing with Abby's. Her background is white, but just this border out here and the amount of images that she's using make it so it's not just a white background. These borders, these big, thick borders that she used on her text boxes, which I think is all that is, but it draws so much. I probably would have used some sort of a background color here that could have helped. And then she also could have used those colors as a way to group her or different things. So she could have used, like a fate brown or red, and then a greenish, and then whatever it is. But you could use those colors to also help people keep track of exactly where they are in the presentation. Hallie does a really nice job of using color that way. But the thing that I want you to focus on with Hallie's is how well and I know this probably was very difficult for her, because she likes to write and write and write and write and write. And you'll notice that she has a lot of slides here. Okay. She's got 22 slides, but the amount of information that she has isn't any more than a lot of you put in your slides. She just spaced it out so that there's not as much text on every single slide. So I really love, and you'll see as I scroll down through here, see how she changed colors from when she went from sun to orbit to volcanoes. She changed colors, so we know exactly where we are in the presentation. So the sun, so we're talking about the sun's energy. These titles are really, really good. So we have our whole title slide with really good images over here on the left, and then very short, very concise, very good bullet points that are kind of close to complete sentences, but not exactly. They're giving us the information without being super text heavy. And I'm very proud of you for that, Hallie. So we're just going to kind of scroll down through here. So even here, again, she's got a ton of information in here, but because there's spacing, part of our carbs, and proximity, we're spacing these things out. The text is big, so it's easy to read. She also formatted the scientists. There were a few of you who said that you couldn't find scientists. I had lots of students that were able to find lots of specific scientists. So I'm going to push you to go find them because they're out there. Okay. So again, same thing. She could have written all of this in one sentence and put it at the top of her slide, and it would have been boring and awful. But because she highlights it this way, I love the way her slides are laid out. I love the way that she's using just very short. So that's the thing she could have said. She could have just wrote over here in 1859, the Carrington event happened. It was a solar storm that electrified gas that spewed to the earth from the sun. But she breaks that up into these really, really nice bullet points. So this is really, really a great example of how we can lower the amount of text in paragraph form when we're doing presentations. So I'm going to buzz through the rest of this really quickly. But again, now we're changing colors. We know that we've completely changed type because we're using a different color over here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So again, same idea, same going through here. Found a really good scientist that's talking about that was named for the thing. Volcanoes. She found another guy. That dude is super creepy looking, but at least there's a picture of him. That's cool. So anyway, this was another really, really good example of of somebody doing a very good job of editing themselves, especially for her who likes to write a lot, of making those bullet points and taking out some of those complete sentences. That's how you do that. That's how you take a whole block of text and you spread it out over several slides. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you can go back and reference this if you want to. So first of all, we're making crappy presentations that use the acronym CRAP with contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So we're lining everything up, making sure that it's just so it's easy to read. We're shortening the amount of text that we're putting on these things and putting it in bullet points. We're using lots of images so that it makes it fun and exciting to watch and read. These are the things that we can do as we're making. So as we're learning about these science things, this is just going to change the way that we present them so that we can also get higher grades and we can, provide the correct information in a way that's easily consumable by other people. So I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. I will see you all back here again on Thursday. Have an awesome day.